All right. Good afternoon. Starting a little early today. Just kind of wanted to get into it. You give myself usually like 15 minutes to get ready and get organized, but today I was like, okay, I need to get going. Oh, what is going on down here? This is interesting. All right, we're gonna have to figure out what the heck's going on down this side. All right, let's bring this up a little bit, make sure the audio sounds okay, and I think it's all right. Hopefully this sound is bring down the music a bit. Okay, so I don't know what's going on here, but we'll switch this up in a second with the screen, but. Basically, those that know what I'm usually up to, usually it's a 2-part series every day. So the morning I work on more standard 3D modeling, 3D rendering in Blender. I usually am creating some type of a piece of art that I might mint or sell as an NFT. And usually it's kind of a still image. So I'm bringing in, all this real world landscape that I work with. Let's flip over to here. I bring in all this data. that I get from all these different sources. In this case, we've been working on for the last couple of weeks a place in Arizona called Sedona. And I'll bring in a bunch of data. I'll start to create out a terrain. And then once I've got this kind of main part done, which is my 3D landscape right here, I start to make derivative art and start to expand the world that I'm creating into some different places. So the goal is to create, digital art that bring people to these locations, to highlight these real world locations. All of the art that I make is based on actual real locations that I've been to. And then also, what we're working on this afternoon is getting into doing some more immersive, real world landscapes. And where we were on Friday is we were experimenting with some different terrain data. We made some breakthroughs on texturing the terrain. Let's see if I can. Just want to bring down this volume level, and I'm not really sure. Give me a second. See if I can do this. Well, first of all, let's get rid of the aggressive music. How about that? Let's go to my normal track. Let me just see if I can get. I found something the other day. Volume mixer. Yeah, there we go. I could figure out where to change. That I think is it. Okay, I think that's good. I don't know if this is going to sound okay, but I don't have to hear the music as loud in my ear now. Hopefully it's still going. Okay, so we've been experimenting with Unreal Engine, and hopefully my little system is now working. So when I switch to Unreal Engine, look at that. Everything switches over. Okay, so we had some pretty good breakthroughs. And again, if you're kind of new to what I work on, I'm basically live streaming my actual workday. So this is kind of an accountability stream. It's me figuring things out as I go, sharing what I learn as I go, sharing what I know with my audience, and a lot of times people dropping in to help me out, give me feedback, advice as we build these things out. So if you have questions, just go ahead and ask, and we can work through it together. Okay, so this is Cathedral Rock in Sedona, Arizona. And this is in Unreal Engine 5.3, which is the latest version. And as you can see, we've actually got a lot of good things going on here. We've got basically real terrain. If you kind of look at this location, you would notice that this is in fact the real terrain from Cathedral Rock in Sedona, Arizona. And, we've got some cool stuff going on with the lighting. The textures are starting to show. Just for fun, let's just create a cinematic camera here so we can kind of play around with what's going on with that moon set, which is kind of cool in the background. So we're going to pilot the camera. So now we're actually looking at the view of this camera. And what we can do now is we can go into the camera settings, and we can look at the focal length, so we can zoom this thing in. Just kind of give us kind of a cool little view. We can also do things like we can change this to IMAX 170. I kind of enjoy doing this with the 2:1 crop rate. So if you ever seen Oppenheimer in movie theaters, it's in this format, which is super weird. Throws people off, but usually what happens with 70mm film, like IMAX 70mm film, is they do a 2:1 crunch. So that's where is it? I'm not gonna be able to find it now that I'm looking for it. Maybe no, it's not sensor aspect ratio. Squeeze factor. Yeah. So basically, they do this. It's a 2:1 squeeze factor on the camera, and then you get this nice cinematic widescreen, which is what you typically see. So yeah, I can kind of play around with this a little bit. Again, we're at 35mm. We can go in, get something like this, and just kind of a cool viewpoint that we can set up here to kind of look at the clouds going over top and the moon and the whole thing. We've got full control. I haven't georeferenced this yet, so I don't have the exact moon position and star position and sun position yet. We might do that in this stream actually, but it's kind of a tricky thing because we have to know where the sunset is at a certain particular time, which I actually do, which I can actually, yeah, we can do that. Let's do that reference now. It's not the most accurate setup, but I can show you how I do that. So the way that I do the georeference, I'm going to open up Lightroom. You won't be able to see it, but yeah, you won't be able to see this, but I'm just going to grab the reference photo. Actually, we may be able to do it from PureRef. Let's try. So there are ways to georeference real-world terrain in Unreal Engine 5. Now, there's like a bunch of ways that we could tackle this, and we could play around with this and try it. So one is we could use a thing called Cesium, which is like a georeferenced GIS tool inside of Unreal Engine, and we could bring in some kind of background data here that we could use in our terrain. And then we could like align the terrain to that, and we know it would be georeferenced. And once we do that, we could kind of, have a bit more flexibility, but I don't want to go to that step yet. So I'm going to do the kind of the shortcut method. And basically what that is just going to switch over to PureRef in 3 seconds. Come on, automation. Oh, all right. I know what that is. Here, let me fix that on the fly, because otherwise it's going to drive me crazy the whole time. So I've just been experimenting with some auto screen switching, and we just have to tell it if it's either or. How do I change one of these? If or. I think it's this. Or scene is live blender. Just bear with me 1 second. Live UE5. There we go. I think that should work now, and then we'll time it. This one is okay. I think this is gonna work, maybe. So this is PureRef, and let me just do a quick check. So if I go back to Unreal Engine, that should switch perfect, and then let's switch over to PureRef, and should take 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Beautiful. Okay. So if I go and I take this photo right here, and let me just see if I can. I'm not going to have an actual, unfortunately, location. So let me just grab this out of my Lightroom. I just got to get the exact date that I took the reference photo, and I think I have it somewhere. Projects, clients, no, date 2022. Sedona. Okay, so I have this like time lapse that I took, and I'm just grabbing. You can't see this, but it's just a quick check. So it's just to see the time. March 16th, 2022 at 5:24 p.m. Okay, so March 16th, 2022 at 5:24. And the reason why I can do this is I have, I'll just show you the exact viewpoint that I have. So let's just I'll grab a screenshot. Grab a screenshot of this. And I'll just paste it right in here to PureRef, so you guys can see this in a second. So, okay, so this is the photo. So see how you can kind of see where the shadowing is here, and if you look at my data, you can see that it's March 16th at 5:24. So that's what we're going to do to line this up. So we're going to go back into Unreal Engine, and we're going to make sure that it has simulate real moon, stars, the whole thing. And then this is thanks to Ultra Dynamic Sky. I think there's other ways to do this, but these guys are really good because they have this georeference data built in, so you don't have to go too crazy to find it. So I just changed the default to Phoenix, And it's not going to be that much different. We could grab the actual lat long if we wanted. Let's see. I'm just going to grab here. I can actually. So this is Cathedral Rock. I should have this in a notes. I have this in a note somewhere, but okay. So it's 34. Okay, so we're just getting the actual. We're getting the actual location from Cathedral, so we're just switching this to the exact latitude and longitude. So it may be hard to see this on the screen, and unfortunately I don't have a thing set up to like zoom in. That's the next thing on my list. But up in the right corner, I'm basically down here, I'm actually just changing the lat long. And then time zone is important just to make sure time zone Phoenix. I think it automatically does it. Yeah, it's -7, so that did that with the preset. So it put the time zone as -7. So now we can set the date. So the photo that I took, if we go back to Pure Ref and we take a peek, this is 2022, March 16th, 5:24. Okay, so we go back to here, March 16th, 5:24. So March 16th, and it was 5:08. Oh, shoot. Okay, where's my time? My time's up here. So this is going to be 5:24, and I think this isn't 24 hour. Okay, so that's going to be 17:24. Okay. And then what we want to do is, this is the part that you have. So basically this is now set up properly for real, actual like time of day stuff. But what you got to do is you got to change the north yaw. And this is where you got to know what the lighting was like at that time, which is a big reason why going there is very helpful. So if I actually change, let's get rid of my piloting this. So let's go over to where I actually took my reference photo. So it's like basically over here. We know this because you can kind of, this disappears, like see that little disappears from the shot. So it's about here. And then we'll just get rid of the fog for a second so we can kind of see this. And then if you watch the north yaw, fingers crossed, see that? See the lighting there? So what I'm looking at is right here. I'm seeing those shadows, and I'm just going to double check now. And you can see that they're a little bit further across. And I could put this on screen to do it, but basically they're a little further across. Height-wise, they look good, which is good, which is what we want. So we're just going to let them go a little bit across, a bit more, something like that. I'm just going to double check it again. Yeah, that's pretty good. So again, it's not perfect. It's not going to be like, hey, we can say absolute, this is dead on, spot on. But what we can say is that if I got the north yaw is the only thing to control, everything else is simulated right. So at 17:24, 5:24, at this latitude, this longitude, in this time zone, this is where the sun is. It's really good at this. And what's cool is now we can, this is what the sun would have done that day. Okay, so ignore the fact that the sky kind of does some weird stuff here, but basically this is what it would have done. And actually the moon and the stars as well. So let me see where that went. So, this is again our 17, this is our time. Let's just kill the clouds for a second so we can see this. So there's the sun there. That's at 5:04. And then it would have set, it would have set at about 7:15. So I probably would, if I looked, I'd probably have photos from around 7:15 as well, with that sun. But that's what time I think, that's what time my camera says. I might have had that wrong. That's another thing I have to double check my phone, see did I take a photo at the same time, make sure my time zone wasn't incorrect. But basically, that's how we can get that lined up. Okay, so now that we have that, at least we know we're close. It may not be perfect. The cool part is now we have a little bit of freedom to kind of change the time of day. We can, there it goes. That's a sunrise position back here. And then it comes up, goes across the sky, and then sets over here. And then the moon comes up. which I think if I remember that day, I do remember the moon coming up right there. I'll probably even have a photo of it, which is kind of cool. So you can see this moon now comes up, and now we go into a night mode, which if we look at it, I actually have this photo, which is really cool. The aurora is there's going to be no aurora, obviously, in Sedona right now, or at that time. But I just wanted to, I'm just kind of messing around with it to see what it's like. So we could just, drop that down, make it a little bit, just to add a little bit of mood. But let me just double check, make sure the stars are on. So let's look for... so many settings here. It took me forever to kind of understand how a lot of these worked. You can even, the craziest thing, by the way, about this is if you set it to like when there's gonna be an eclipse in 2024, if you set it to like an exact location, it's pretty good at simulating where like an eclipse at that time. So you can actually use this. It's actually an interesting idea. You could use this as when the eclipse comes up, like scouting locations and stuff. Maybe that's something we'll do. I don't have a location to shoot the eclipse this year. I haven't thought through it yet, but this might be a good idea. Okay, so what we were doing, we're going to change. So I just want to double check the stars. There's so much stuff. So much stuff to change. Like even the dust is kind of a cool, like just a base little dust in here because we're in Sedona. You can add that in. God, there's so much stuff. Okay, so this is the star. So this is intensity, right? So I can crank the intensity of the stars if we want. Looks like, no, it doesn't look very good. It looks like a lot of astrophotographers. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of astrophotography lately. That's like a little too intense. I did the same thing, but there's our Milky Way, and I'm pretty confident that I have a photo on my phone, and maybe if I have time, I'll go find it. I'm pretty confident I have a photo on my phone of me predicting where the Milky Way was at this location. I think around this time. Here, let's do it, and I can send it over. I'll just show it to the camera. So. If I go into, just going into my camera roll, and I'm going back to, let's see, what did we say, March of 2022? So I'm going to March. Okay, March 2022. Okay, it does show that I was there. What did I say for the date? This is one thing I don't like about this is like it's hard to find everything. Okay, so it's March 16th, 2022. Yeah, this is okay. So this is what I have. Cool. So if I have this, it'll definitely be in this camera roll. Let me just do a quick scan. I can double check the time while I'm here too. It says 6:30. Was about when I was doing those time lapses. No, it says 5. It started at 5:54, so maybe I was an hour off. We can check that. But I also know that I put up, pretty confident that I put up a photo pills to see when there would be to see when we would have a. Maybe I don't, or maybe I went back multiple times. Okay, I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. Oh, plus, oh God, Apple Photos sucks. Just kind of gives you like a highlights, here's your favorite, here's your best photos. Okay, I got it. Okay, so this is March 16th. So this, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on screen. Like, decent? Okay, so, and there we go. So this is March 16th at 3:14 a.m. is when I was looking to see what the Milky Way was going to do. So let's go see. Let's see what this does. So, and you know, our north yaw might be off, but so let's say this is the 16th. Okay, so this would have been the 16th at 03:14. It's oddly very close to what it kind of was doing, although the it was a little bit off. Yeah, it's interesting. It's not quite. Oh, it's really close though. So this is the same time. This is March 3/14. So you can see that. Oh, it switched over. It's going to be probably hard to see this on camera, but you can just see how vertical. Like you can see the Milky Way is just above the horizon. So I think it's doing it's probably doing. I mean, I know it's simulating it accurately. I don't know if maybe I just have something off a little bit, but super cool to see. And then you saw a little bit earlier, like somewhere here, you know, at 6:40 in the morning, although you got a bit of sun, you've got the Milky Way coming right across the sky, which is really cool. Okay, so let's go back to our time. And we were what? Let's say it was 18:24 instead. And then we can just change the north yaw. See, because I think I was an hour. It might have been an hour off. Yeah, so something like that. Okay, cool. So anyway, we've got the time of day set up, so we can kind of play around now with a few things. So again, we got cloud coverage, right? Bringing the clouds in. These clouds, I need to get a way to do some presets. I've adjusted these clouds 100 times in this ultra dynamic sky to make them look the way I want, and I never can seem to retain the settings. They're not bad. They're not bad, but yeah, just so like you can go all the way, you know, to a full cloudy day. And there's even a weather pack in here that I can mess around with. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Sometimes these clouds, they just look a little too uniform to me. You can actually bring the altitude down. So there, and a ton of other things that we can do. But I think this is the basic stuff. Okay, so I had a list here of things that I wanted to work on. So let me just go take a peek. What I had. Okay, so triplanar on the landscape is okay. Grass, vertical nodes. We might do the grass. Grass, distance, scaling, tiling. Okay, so let's just look at the scene and talk through some of the things that we have to fix to make this all kind of come together the way we want. So the good news is, like, overall the shape of the terrain looks pretty good, and we do have a pretty small area here. We're doing this because I'm going to experiment with bringing this into Fortnite. And we want to have like kind of an island type situation, but we're going to put a lot of detail in the middle ground here. Okay, so we have some cool stuff going on. So first is, if you kind of go up here, you can see like we've got a little bit of it's not really a river system, but it's where the rivers should be. And you can also see that there's sort of a grassy area here, and then you can see it kind of turns into a light dirt area, and especially along these ridges, you can see it. And then you can see that it turns into rock when it goes into these different heights. So as it goes into this, the big issue that we're dealing with among a bunch of things, but the biggest one is this, and this is like vertical terrain hell is the best way to put this. You really like. The way that terrain works in Unreal Engine or anywhere else is it's like displacing, you know, a map with height. And when you have straight vertical terrain, it just does not have, like, it doesn't have individual pixels to put that texture on. That's a bad explanation, but basically it doesn't. The way that the terrain, it doesn't work. Let's just say that. But there is ways to fix it. It's just I've been looking at some tutorials and trying to find a good one. Yeah, hey Adam. Exactly, you got displacement map pixel stretch. Exactly. So because they're, you know, and if you kind of think of like the displacement when you look at this anyway, you know, it's basically has a value in height both here and here essentially for this part of the terrain, and it doesn't handle it very well. Yeah, and auto materials are set up in this. So Adam, just so you kind of know what I'm doing, and you can chime in if you've got experience with this. The auto material is less important to me. It is actually set up, I think, right now in my material. I'm trying to make my own material from scratch, so that I have full control of it. It's going to work in Fortnite, the whole thing. So let me show you the material for a second, and then I can tell you. I just can't remember if I think I do have it turned on right now. Yeah, so this is it. So did I turn it on? Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah, it should be turned on. Okay, so what Adam is talking about is, if I go down to a random spot here on the map, I go into landscape. Oh, it's all good, man. No worries. You don't have to stress about that. You just hang out, listen, type something if you feel like it. But I'll just explain what you're saying because people see the chat. I hope this is on. Yeah, it is. Okay. So this is what he's talking about for an auto material. So an auto material is able to understand that we just created, you know, a random hill in the side of the terrain. Actually, I gotta get rid of that because let's just create another. Let's create another layer on top of this because I'll forget that I made changes. No, that's not what I wanted to do. What did I want to do? Do I do it from here? Yes, right. Create. Okay. So for Adam's sake, and just for kind of anyone watching, so you know what I'm doing. This is kind of common in Unreal Engine, auto materials, and in particular, like why people use them, from what I understand, is like if you were making a terrain, you may end up wanting to sculpt the whole thing yourself, right? You're designing a level, you're making something based on, you know, a fictional location. You know, you can decide like, okay, today I'm going to make a mountain here, and you can just go nuts, and you can go ahead and create, you know, you can basically sculpt whatever you want in the landscape, and whatever you do, the material is going to respond to it. And then you can also paint different areas of the material. I have this set up as well. So if I go in and paint mud, second, I think it should be still working. I don't think I broke anything. Although who knows, maybe I did. Hard for me to tell if that's actually doing anything or not. Maybe I don't. Okay, well, we'll go look at that. It should actually, I mean, it should be running. It's running from a, okay, let me back up. So this is the typical setup, but what I actually am, and the nice thing about this is if you kind of hide this layer, it'll just go back to the base layer. And what I'm kind of doing is something slightly different. I don't want to actually do those adjustments in Unreal Engine if I can avoid it. I might need to do it at the end, you know, for some specific things here and there for the level design or the game design, but I really want to drive this from actual data that I'm generating in another tool, which is called Gaia. And with Gaia, I can actually export all of the maps, like basically they would sometimes call them splat maps, where you've got like a red channel, a green channel, and a blue channel with, you know, specific, like basically a mask, right? So it's like some part of it's black or like high luminosity, some of it's low, black low luminosity or high red luminosity. I'm getting weird to explain this, but basically, you can lay out, okay, we want grass here, beach here, you know, we want forest here. We can kind of lay this out with a mask. And that's what I actually want, because I want to be able to really go into Gaia and manipulate this and then export a new map and then import the terrain and have it change, as opposed to being like manually going in and changing it every time. Hopefully this autosave is not going to ruin me. I don't know, you guys can't see that. I just got a dreaded autosave in Unreal Engine, which sometimes just decides that it can take 20 minutes. No idea why. Never figured that out. And like the stream is lagging because it's saving. It's the weirdest thing. So just bear with it for a second, or just be patient. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that, okay, it's still saving, is that, yeah, I want to drive this from the maps. So one of the things that we have running here, which is kind of cool. Oh man, this is so frustrating. Why these things take? Like, I don't actually even know what is it that it needed to save there. Because I guess I created a new layer. That was it. It's very odd. Okay, back to what we're talking about. So what we do have, which is neat, that's a little different than what most of these auto materials have. So I've got this set up where I can change, you know, oh, we're going to lose a window. That's so frustrating. So I can't, it's so annoying. I can't get, there's no real good way, I don't think, to do this other than full screen. Okay, there we go. It's kind of annoying, but this is how we'll have to do it. So I've got like a material 1. Yeah, so I've got material 1, which will be the first material we're going to paint on the landscape, and then material 2, which is the second one. Right now they're set up to like a mud and a grass. And then I've got a slope layer, which is going to be all of the actual high slope areas, so the rock faces, and that's going to be the sandstone, which we're going to have to fix up. But that's set up, and we've got all of our values for, you know, when it's going to show up based on each, you know, slope levels and contrast and all that. But what I have that's slightly different is I have this sat map, which is an actual satellite image that I've lined up in Blender and Gaia and QGIS, and I know that it's basically, I think it's pretty close to lined up. Maybe there would be slightly off, but it's pretty good. And I can control this by the blending. So let me show you what this looks like. So this is our current terrain right now. And if I bring the blending up to 1, this is what it is. So now we have an actual sat map, which shows us like the real locations. So we can kind of get a feel for what we're working with here in terms of laying this out. I think it's going to be very, very helpful. I mean, it adds, right away adds, you know, a feeling of like, okay, well, what is where on this landscape? Where's the grass? Where's there sort of bushes and trees? The river system through here. It gives this extra level, and then, you know, we can also just say like maybe go half and half. Oh, sorry, that's got to be 1. That's our scale. 0.5, right? And we can bring this back here, and now we can see that we got kind of both, right? We've got a little bit of satellite coming through, and we've got the actual real terrain. And then we drop it down. We have less and less, all the way down to 0. It's gone. So this is kind of a big component of what I want. How much we'll use this, or if will we even use this in the final landscape? Maybe not. But it definitely helps, I think, until we get like full trees and stuff in here. It helps add a little bit of realism, and it really does help with modeling it. I'm going to have to go double check to make sure that my actual satellite lines up. I don't, yeah, see, it doesn't. I gotta double check that, because see, if you bring this up, the road's lining up incorrectly. So yeah, we'll figure all that out. But for now, we've got a little bit of both. Okay, so back to our problem. The most glaring problem in this whole thing that I want to get fixed as quickly as I can is I want to fix this triplanar. And here's what I'm debating. I've never seen this technique that I'm about to try. I've never seen anyone do it. I haven't found a tutorial on it. I don't know, like, is it possible? I don't know if I'm going to hit a dead end. But I feel like if I can do it, it's going to be... I think it's actually very, very helpful for terrains like this. So we need to see how far we go, and if we can't get it to work, we'll go back to this other method. So the triplanar method basically involves taking 3 versions of the texture and projecting it from different like angles, like the Z-axis, the X, and the Y. And you kind of blend it all together in a way where it actually looks like it's not stretching on the terrain. Problem is, I don't know how much control I'm going to have. I don't know how good it's going to look. I've used something called Brushify before, which has triplanar built in, and it doesn't look that great still. And it has a pretty big... Let's see, this is a weird part of the terrain I have to fix. And it has like a pretty bad performance hit on your level or your game, because you're using like multiple textures on this over and over again. And how much it does, no idea, but it does have some effect. So this technique that I was thinking about trying is, like, I have the real terrain in Blender, and what I was thinking of doing is going into Blender and using geometry nodes, and I'll have to like find some tutorials and stuff. Let me see what Adam's saying. Usually in Blender, you can't retopple the vertical sections. Those planes have more normals on the UV map. Yeah, so kind of, right? Like, we could definitely do that, but I don't know, Adam, whether if we like, it still has to be a displacement map in UE5, right? So even if we add a bunch of geometry to the actual terrain in Blender, the height map that we're going to export is going to be it's still going to be a height map, so it's not going to be able to handle overhangs and not going to be able to handle vertical sections. So it's not going to actually solve this issue, I don't think. You could export the actual terrain from Blender and bring it into UE5 as an FBX file and then convert it to nanite. That would work, but then you can't interact with the terrain, and it would look good from, like, if we were just posing a photo. Yeah, then it'll work, but we won't actually be able to use it and, you know, set up water and set up like all of the things that I would want to do with the landscape. And then it definitely won't work when I want to bring it into Fortnite. So my idea, and cool that you're here, Adam, because you understand this and you're kind of following along, is what I'm thinking is to go into Blender and take the entire landscape and isolate out all of the vertical sections, because there's no actual interaction. If we're playing this game, you know, and we go up here and we want to play, you know, from the top, you know, we're running on top of the land, but we're never actually running or interacting with the vertical sections. Like, this is not like a rock climbing game where we're not doing anything really. We're not interacting with them at this vertical height. Or we're never going to have water or anything that's like requires the landscape to interact. So the idea is, because there's a couple options, you can basically kit bash this, which is what I was sort of messing around with here. And you can use like a nanite mesh, and you can just kind of go nuts and, you know, change it and rotate it. But honestly, like, I mean, it seems like a really dumb way to do it. I mean, it might look okay if you kind of can get variety in here, but it's going to be super high res, because you can see this texture is perfectly projected on here and it looks really good. So this is my idea. I'm going to go into Blender and I'm going to isolate out all of the vertical sections of this terrain. And I'm going to export that terrain as an actual FBX file. So it's going to look like, it's just going to look like this weird kind of, basically a bunch of meshes all around this landscape. But when I import it and I line it up perfectly with this terrain, my guess is it's actually going to be like it's going to solve the problem, because I'm just going to turn the whole thing on the side, right? So we're going to export the actual real geometry, not a height map. So we're going to use the height map for this, but then we're going to have a separate actual vertical terrain. And I think, fingers crossed, either we can hide the vertical sections of the terrain, because there is a way to do that in Unreal Engine. You can actually tell it, like, we don't want to see this. In fact, there's, I think, if I remember right, you can kind of quietly, like, you can do it through here. I think it's under Sculpt, Visibility. Yeah, I know, I'm pretty sure you can do this. Oh, it's a hidden layer. I'm not sure. I know I have done it. I don't know what I would have to do differently here. Either way, I have done it where you can actually hide the terrain. But what I'm thinking is, yeah, like I'm wondering what would happen if we brought in like a separate vertical geometry and just kind of merged them together and flipped it to nanite. I think we could have quality, you know, textures like this. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. I don't know yet. I'm gonna try it. Okay, so let's go mess around in Blender for a bit and see if we get anywhere. And if we don't, we're gonna come back here and we'll work on the triplanar. So I'm probably gonna save this and just close it, because it's gonna probably crash. It's just gonna run my fan. So we go. So what do you mean you do that, Adam? So you bring in this technique that I'm talking about, like I've never seen. This is a common thing. Like you've done this, or other people do this, where they bring in like the vertical facade